There's a good chance that this live stream will close because the internet at this rental house I'm at is really bad. But we're going to be moving to a new studio soon, and internet will be good, hopefully. So come on in, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know if it's lagging or it's just not great. But today's going to be fun. We're going to continue working on making this super simple, basic first-person shooter. What I mean by basic is the mechanics are super simple. There's nothing crazy going on here. But we're going to use juice, and we're going to use lighting and effects and music and sound to make it sound and feel awesome. So here's what we have so far. So something is happening with the sound there. We'll figure it out. My theory is it's the death sound is like multiple sounds. Let's see here. We have no. Sorry, I just need to figure out what's going on there. There's stuff going on with the enemies where they're exploding without my permission. But that's kind of what we've got so far, guys. So the next thing we want to do here. Oh, that's good. The next thing we want to do here is the music. I just really want to throw in some music as the final element of sound. So Jordy is the one who's editing this video. Jordy, you can throw this part into that sound section that we worked on yesterday. But let's go ahead and find some sounds here. Come on in, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know if the stream is laggy or anything like that. Some music as the but I think so far, I'm looking at it right now, it looks like everything's fine. Yeah, it's just so slow lately. I'm ready to get out of this rental. I'll move into the new studio. But let me go ahead and open up some sound effects or some music here. We're going to go to Epidemic Sound. Let's go to our music. I'll show you in a sec here. And I think what I want is just some cool synthwave, like maybe some dark synth, kind of like Carpenter Brutish. Let's do that, right? So here we go. Let's do some dark synth and see what we can get. So far, so good? No. Let's type in Carpenter Brute and see what we can find. Okay, no, there's nothing. So we'll do dark synth here. You know, I've used this one before, and I'm totally fine with it. So let's just use this song, put it into the game really quick here. And by the way, guys, this is no small thing. I have found that music can, it doesn't manipulate people, but it does something. It tells them something more about the game, and it suddenly opens up layers and layers of emotion for your game that you didn't think were there to begin with, and then suddenly they're there. Right? Suddenly the game feels serious, and suddenly the game feels like it has a point and a purpose, and that it has some existential meaning. It's kind of like Dark Knight. I just watched that movie. I honestly think if you watch that movie on mute, or if Hans Zimmer didn't have music in that movie, it would not be as nearly profound as with the music. And I know that that's offensive for me to say, but that's what I'm going to say. Music is very important. It makes things feel profound, when in fact they're not. That's the beauty of art, is you could trick people into thinking there's meaning there, or you can meaning is born not from the artist but from the art, right? And so in this case, we're going to see if that works for us. So let's throw that music in. That is such a good Diet Coke. We're going to call this music here. And frankly, why not just throw this into the audio pool? There we go. It's going to be our music audio source. And we're going to make it 2D, right? You want to make sure it's 2D. You don't want a reverb zone mix. You want it to be pure and clean. You don't want it to be adulterated by any weird reverb zones. We're going to set it to loop. It's probably going to be too loud, so I'm going to set it to 0.6. And also, what we want to do, just make sure we save it. Let's hit play. All right. How's the sound and how's the audio quality, guys? It's too loud. Okay, great. It honestly feels so much more serious. It feels epic, you know? One thing we don't have is we actually don't have a hurt sound for the player. And so we really need this because we're getting some weird... This is actually so important. Things that are as important as hurting the enemies and killing the enemies. What you want to do is make sure that sound is clear and concise, right? It's also very important that the player... that we're telling the player, hey, you're getting hurt, bro. So we're going to do that with UI and feedback, but we could also just do it really quickly with sound, as might as well just do it while we do all the other sounds. So I'm just going to do one hurt sound. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Audacity, and I'm going to do one from my voice here. Okay, those three were great. I'm kind of, I hurt myself a little bit. If I'm being completely honest, I really did. I do this for you though. I do it in your honor, and I do it because I love you. So you're welcome. So this right here, I'm gonna get rid of that one. And then that. There we go. Okay, good. Is everything okay? Usually about right now the stream will shut off if I have this many bars. Is everything good, guys? Let me know. Let me know. Are we good? Final element of sound, so it's the one who's editing this video. Yeah, no, we're good. Okay. Alrighty. Let's keep going. All right, so what do we got here? Let's find some sound effects at artlist.io. We've got the voice reaction, right? But what we want is we also want the impact, right? The impact sound. So I'm going to do some kind of weird bass drop or synth bass drop. Okay, good. How about flesh impact? These aren't working for me. This is kind of good, actually. I like this one. So let's just throw that into the various hurt sounds. And we may even be able to get away with a reverb. Do another one. Okay. And then we're going to take this and we're going to do some reverb. Okay, does that make sense, guys? We're not going to have, this is kind of really bad acting, honestly, so I'm going to get rid of that. And by the way, guys, did you know that half of good acting and half of good voice acting is knowing what to cut and what to remove? This is true with voice acting that I've done for all of my games. You're going to get 5 or 6 takes from voice actors and actresses, and some of them are really embarrassing, and some of them are cringy, and that's okay. You know, that's normal. And then you have to, as the director and as the editor, you have to go in there and say, okay, what sounds good? And so being a good art director for a game is knowing what sounds good, right? That's great. And we're going to make these a little bit lower. They're a little too sharp. We're going to fade this one out. I don't like hearing that. Okay, mix and render, right? We're going to fade out. Actually, let's get make sure it's not clipping. Let's do a little bit of a compression here. There we go. Tracks, mix and render. Let's bring it up a little bit. And we're just going to have it right here. Okay, export that into our folder here. Give me a sec. So this is going to be our player sound. We're going to call this, you want to do a wave file. Does anybody know why we want to do a wave file? Why do we want to do a wave file? This is going to be player hurt 1. Why do we want to do a wave file? Anybody know? We need to fade that out. Why are we using a wave file as opposed to an MP3? MP3s are lower file size, so why not use those? You know, we want lower file sizes and compression in our game, right? Well, in the final build you do, but you don't necessarily want your source material to be low res. You don't want your textures to be low res. You want them 4K, you know? Frankly, I don't even compress them down to PNGs or JPEGs. They're source material, PSDs. All of that's imported into Unity, and then on the export, when we actually build to PC or for Steam, that's where the compression happens, right? Or it happens on the import in the inspector in Unity. So that's hurt 2, and then this is hurt 3. No, I don't think wave is better than OGG. I'm just saying that, or OGG, I'm just saying that you want to use something that's a little bit higher res than an MP3. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so here's our hurt sounds. We need a screen shake to occur, and we need a hurt sound to play. Okay, so we're going to make sure we go to the take damage function that's in our player controller, and we're going to make sure that the screen shake occurs, and then we're also going to play some sounds. Okie dokie. So let's go to our, here's our player hurt sounds. Okay. I don't know if these are being played yet. Oh yes, they're right here. Okay, so we're gonna do play one shot, player hurt sounds, and then brackets random dot range. And we're gonna go from the start of the array all the way to the end. Okay, so we're gonna say, hey, look, you know, if these things aren't null, then go ahead and do this. This is honestly a little bit overkill. I don't love null checking like that. I kind of want to do a video on why null checks like that bother me. I want to know. I want things to break. I don't want them to mysteriously break. I want them to break big so that I know where it's happening. I want to see a big null reference exception in the console. I don't want it to just fail quietly. So that's kind of why I don't like doing null checks sometimes. Hey guys. Zekage Zekenhag, how are you? Lognaris, how are you? Come on in, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's always so fun to have you guys joining me. It means so much to me. And by the way, there's going to be a full edit of this live stream. So when you guys chat, your chat shows up, and then we do a big edit for the channel. So feel free to say hello, and maybe your name will appear in the video. Okay, so we're going to play a sound for our damage, which is good. I like that. If the player health, we also need it. Nah, I don't really need a die sound. Honestly, I'm fine. We would obviously have a die sound in the commercial game, but for this video, we're not going to do a die sound. We're just going to do the player hurt sounds right here. I know I said I was only going to do one hurt sound, but I actually kind of like those three. So there we go. Hey, Jeb, are you all right, buddy? You okay, bud? All right, guys, let's hit play. Guys, I'm moving into my new studio next week. I'm excited. Okay, let's get hurt. Okay, so I don't want those enemies to play a death sound if the player touches them. So what we need to do here, this is the destruction here. Play enemy death sound? No. Right? I don't want to hear a death sound. I just want the enemy to destroy. So this is really, really important to note. Sounds, when you stack a bunch of sounds on top of each other, and this is kind of a noob thing. When I first started making games, I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to hear the enemy exploding and the player getting hurt at the same time, because that's what happened. The problem is you want to orchestrate everything in a game. You want to be this master puppeteer, and kind of like you're directing a movie, and you're doing all this stuff that the player doesn't know. And it's okay to trick the player into thinking certain things. So for example, in this case, yes, the enemy may have exploded, just like, hold on one sec. One sec. Yes, the enemy may have exploded when it touches the player. But if I hear that explosion sound and I hear the hurt sound, I don't know. Okay, hold on one sec. So frustrating. One sec, guys. It's okay to trick the player, okay, is my point. And it's okay to break rules that the player's not really going to understand. So in this case, we're not going to play that death sound for the enemy. We are going to play a hurt sound, though. Let's see how that sounds here. Yes, we're going to do a sale event next week. Why is it playing twice? Okay, so for some reason it's playing a hurt sound twice, and we got to figure out why that is. I wonder why that is. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. I had kind of a little bit of emergency. Sorry, guys. Give me just a minute. I'm sorry. Okay. Where was I? So for some reason, the enemy is, there's a sound playing twice, and I really need to solve this now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my game manager, which is, it's called game manager, but it's really the enemy spawn manager. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring an enemy in here like this, and I'm going to see if it plays that sound twice. Hey guys, come on in, come on in. Okay. Let's see if it plays twice with another one. Because I feel like it might be spawning two enemies at once. Let's see. Okay, it is. And the health isn't going down. What just happened? Hang on. What was that? Health is not going down. There's two issues. We got to solve this, guys, and then we'll get back into the game feel stuff. This is a problem. Jordy, you don't have to show any of this. Okay, Claude. What you got for me, buddy? For some reason, the health is not going down, and the UI is not updating. Okay. Let's double check something here. Let's see if the UI is being referenced. Maybe it's in the game manager. It is. It's in the game manager. No wonder, Thomas. Never mind. It's in the game manager. Why is it playing twice? Hang on. What? Okay, let's see if they're actually destroying. What? Is there a coroutine? So if we can hurt the player should take damage. It on enemy killed is what? Update UI. Okay, so why is it playing the sound twice? Let's see where the sound is being played from, okay? So we're going to go to player.instance.take damage. We're going to figure this out. Give me just a sec, guys. Debug.log play hurt sound for player. Okay, once we get this resolved here, we're going to move into particle effects, animation, flashing effects when you hurt the enemies, so that you get really solid feedback. All right, let's hit play. Yeah, we have the non-game manager ones. You're right. Let's see what happens if we remove those. Thank you, Anthony. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we need to then tell who hit the player. So we need to pass that through. We're going to say which enemy, right? Which enemy, right? And then we're going to pass that through with this right here, which is this dot game object. Or, Thomas, just game object. Yeah, you could just do this. Okay, let's see if we could pass that through and figure out what's going on. We need to figure out where the source of this, where the source of this is coming from. Also, in the player controller, I've got some some stray debugs that I just can't stand. They are, let's see, where are they? Actually, they are in the weapon controller. Yep, right here. These are driving me nuts. So we're going to remove those. And then once we get these cleaned up, we'll move into the particle effects, the flashing animation for the enemies. All right, let's take a look. What do we got? Let's get rid of the screen shake debug really quick. That's driving me nuts too. Hey, Cloud Chaser, how are you? Come on in. For those of you who are just joining us, just remember there's a free game kit below. It's a 2D game kit. I used this exact game kit to make a game for PewDiePie in 14 days. I recently updated it for 2026. It's brand new. It's totally free. Click the link below to grab it. But let's see here. Okay, so we need the name of the enemy. So what we need to do here is make sure the name of the enemy is unique, right? So we're going to do a random name. So the instantiation should occur here. Enemy prefab dot name equals enemy prefab dot name plus random range. We're going to do 0 to 1,000. Why did it do that? That's so annoying. Random range. So basically all I was going to do is give me a unique identifier so I know which enemy it was. And if it's the same enemy doing it twice, it's because of some weird coroutine. Okay. So this enemy right here, there's an invisible enemy that's hurting the player. What? What? Why is that hurting the player? Enemies are hurting the player on spawn. I noticed an enemy is hurting the player immediately upon spawning. Why would that be? Bot Matrix says I took PTO for this live. That's awesome. Good on you, because I will tell you, you're going to learn a lot. Let's see what Claude came up with. I doubt Claude came up with anything substantive here. No, it's spawning too close to the player? No. No, that's not it. What do you think could be the case, guys? This is an interesting problem. We've got enemies taking damage, and it's occurring here. If it can hurt the player, do this. Oh, I know why. No, because that's returning it. That's crazy. If I can hurt the player, and the collision was with the player controller, then do it. Take damage. So why is it doing that? They spawn at a random radius away from the player. They don't spawn near the player. What? We're gonna figure this out. It didn't happen that time. Let's lower the music because it's driving me crazy. This is frustrating, actually. I just died. No, there's nothing in the start. Guys, honestly, it could be that I'm just not seeing them approach me. And that does mean that we need one final thing. These are going to be fleshy demonic creatures, so we're going to come up with some kind of flying gargling sound. And we'll do a paw stretch on that. And then we also need some kind of like demonic hell crackling sound, like a flame crackle. I think we already got an ember sound. I just don't remember where I put it. So let's just grab it again. These are going to be demonic looking flame eye things. All right. Here we go. And then we're going to lower the pitch. And then we'll do one that's reversed as well, but like quieter. Good. Now, here's the thing about looping sound. Most of you have seen, or many of you have seen this, but what you do is you fade out one side, you grab the front end of the other side, bring it over here, and then reverse it. You just want to make sure that it's the same volume as the first layer. And then fade it in, and you'll get a perfect fade. You'll get a perfect loop. So if you could turn on looping here, and just go all the way over here, you can hear it. For some reason, we have a little clip there, and I don't know what that is. We got to do that again. Fade in. Yeah, that should work. Why is it doing that? What the heck? Why is it doing that? That's so annoying. Okay, we got to do it like this. It's not showing that the first part of that clip on the left side. I don't know why. Fade in. There we go. That's it, guys. Make sure that they're sort of consistent in volume. But the problem with that, actually, if we do that, we don't want to do that, actually. So we're good. Let's export this. Double check that the volume is pretty good. Let's do a low pass, because I'm getting some clipping there that's annoying. Okay. These are our flying enemies. This is the loop, enemy loop. Very simple. And all we got to do is throw this onto what? Throw it onto the enemy, right? So let's throw onto the audio source, but we want a custom roll off, okay? And we're gonna do something like 60, maybe, yeah, 60. We also need a new script, okay? And this is gonna be called audio functions. And this might be one of your favorite scripts to use. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell Claude, and yes, I can write these code. I could, if I wanted to, write this code. I'm just not going to for today's live stream because we got a lot to do. Okay, create some functions for this audio functions script that will, on start, set the pitch to a random value in a vector2 variable called random pitch. That's the only function we really need for the audio functions. Obviously, we could do a bunch of audio functions, but this is the only one we're going to do for this one. So let's let it write that really quick. And we're going to pop that into the audio functions script here. Are we using Audacity? Yes. No, we don't need all this crap. Why did it just do that? Remove all those other stupid functions you wrote. I just need the random pitch on start. Okay. If we go back to Unity here, you'll notice that we're going to have this audio source here. We want to make sure that when we throw the audio functions script on there, that we assign the audio source, or we find it on start. So we want to make sure that that's here as well. What in the world? Gotta love it. That's crazy what happened. Well, anyway, we'll just grab this one. Let's grab the whole thing and just get rid of the crap. I don't know what just happened there. Audio settings, audio source, good. We don't need all this. I don't know what just happened, but that's what that is. That's what happens when you rely on AI too much. Seriously. Man, you don't need all this crap. What just happened? Okay, that's all we really need. And we're going to say if set random pitch on start, then do that, right? And that's going to be here. I don't need all this. These tooltips are ridiculous and silly. This is going to be a public Boolean, and it's going to be true by, or let's do false by just default. There we go. Okay, that took way too long. That's what happens when you rely on Claude. You really shouldn't rely on it like that. You got to be careful. Sometimes it makes it, and sometimes the prompt is just really bad, which that's probably what happened too. Let's go to our audio functions here. Throw that on there. And now if I just drag in my audio source, it's going to have a random pitch between 0.9 and 1.1. Now, what we could also do is tell Claude, please also allow me to start the audio clip in the audio source at a random point in its clip length. This bool will be start at random point in clip. That way, we're going to have not only the pitch being random, but if for some reason the pitch is 0.95, for two of them, we're not going to get synced up audio. So we're kind of having like a fail-safe here where the sound is always going to be different. That's because we want the looping sounds to all sound different as they're around the player. Also, the death sounds, those are going to be, no, the death sounds are always going to be the same. It's this looping sound that's going to be different pitches. And in fact, what we could do is we could create a child and call this looping sound, right? And then just drag this onto there so that we have it separate from the enemy, right? Drag that up there. Set random pitch on start, good. And this is going to be the enemy loop, right? So make sure it loops. Reverb zone mix, that's fine. We can keep that. Let's go ahead and throw this on there as well. Okay, so now it knows kind of what, you know what I found is Claude is really bad at starting from scratch, but it's really good at editing and tweaking and finding bugs and understanding how all of the scripts in your game are interconnected. Start at random point and clip. Yes, that's good. Okay, let's see how it sounds. Okay, we have a problem. The problem is, by the way, let's apply this here. The problem is we need it to be 3D. So go to our looping sound, set it to 3D. There we go. So let's go ahead and take a look and see how it sounds. Let's see how it sounds when I get hit. Okay, so the player hurt sound is not loud enough. That one is too loud. And also the 3D audio sources it's immediately starting. And that's because the max distance should be something like 30. So that if I'm really far away, you know, like here, I don't hear it at all. That's good. I kind of want the looping sound pitch to be a little bit more varied. So we could do 1.4 and then 0.8. So there's going to be a broad difference in sound or pitch. What was the other issue? No, I think that was, the player sound getting hurt. We probably need to just play those at a louder volume. Honestly, I don't know what else to do there. I don't know why those hurt sounds are so quiet, but we're just going to do it at 1.3 F. There we go. All right, let's take a look. We're just instantiating enemies. I'm fine with instantiating enemies. You're going to get a little bit of a hitch, but I don't think I mind. What? I just got freaking hurt. Why? Okay. Other than that glitch, it's great. One final thing we want to do is make sure we do a little screen shake here. Let's figure out how to do that. I think we can go to screen shake dot medium shake and see why is that needs to be capitalized. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna do a medium screen shake on taking damage from the player controller. I really don't know why we're getting that glitch, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Let's see how the screen shake sounds. Awesome. Welcome, Andromeda Host Games. Awesome. So yeah, if you're just joining us, guys, what we're doing is I'm a big fan of the word low-hanging or the phrase low-hanging fruit. I love low-hanging fruit. I love adding as much of the easiest stuff possible to my game to make it as fun and juicy as possible. So that's what we're doing in this. Is we're having a super simple gameplay loop. And yesterday, during the workshop, we focused on creating really solid animation so the player felt weighty. And I'm actually really satisfied with it. And now we're doing sound and particles. And then we're going to do color and lighting. Let's see what the screen shake does for us. Hey, that's good. Great. Obviously, we could have a reticle sort of around the player of all these different enemies. But I'm actually not going to do that for this. We're not going to make the game perfectly fair right now. Like, there's a whole balancing phase we could go through. But right now, it's just all about juice. That's what this workshop is all about, is juice. So we're just going to worry about juice. What else we got here? Okay, there's something on this list that is a bonus, and it's going to be shoot trail. Actually, no. Where's the particles? Right here, yes. I'm going to call this section particles. Jordy, editor, my beautiful, wonderful editor, we're going to call this particles and effects, this section here, okay? We also need these reactions here. And we're going to call this like looting, or yeah, something like looting or something. Sorry, Jordy, to change that up on you. Particles and effects and trails. That's going to be coming up. But right now, we're going to worry about color, lighting, fog, and post-processing. Okay, let's decide. This is very important, and it's important that you guys don't skip this step when you're working on your game. We need to decide what the color scheme for our game is going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm opening up Photoshop right now, and we're going to quickly put together a color palette that we're just going to use for our game. We're not going to do any texture work today. The goal is to show you how to get your game looking amazing and feeling amazing with nothing except for just that low-hanging fruit like we talked about. So I don't want to do any texture work. Granted, it would look better. It really would. But what we're going to do is just use color. I just want to use color. And my theory is that we can have a kind of a spooky looking game with just flat color. Okay? So we're going to have our ground color, which is going to be like an ugly brown. There's our ground color. We're going to also have the sky. I kind of feel like a greenish color, right? So something like this. There's our sky color, but it's going to have a horizon in it. I wonder if we could get away with some kind of orange horizon. Like it's sort of a stormy, demonic. That's kind of cool. Right? Something like that. The pop of color. So I always do like a sky color with its horizon. I do ground color, and then I figure out what the pop of color is going to be. What's the thing that's going to be the interactables or the enemies, the thing that just pops? And I think that's what we want to do, something like that. Okay. We can also do black. I think black would look really cool in this game. Maybe in our UI or something. But this is our color scheme. Now, what do we do with this? Nothing. We just have it open in Photoshop. Okay. I'm probably going to need to make a skybox though. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to create a new, and I'm just going to pick some random size, 3840 by 1920 by 1080. 3840 by 1080. I don't know. This is not the ideal size for a skybox by any means, but it's going to work. So this is really the only piece of art I think we're going to create along with like the UI. So we're just going to pick a good spot for the horizon to occur. Something like that. And what I'm going to do is just go a little bit darker on the top. Like this. Okay, something like that. And then we're going to need to bring this portion up just a little bit there. And then down here, we don't really care about what's below because we're not really going to see it, but I could do like a light. Something like that. Let's call this skybox. Assets. Oh my goodness, we don't have an art folder. Art. Skyboxes. Right? I'm going to call this skybox. And it's just going to be a PSD. Okay. Now, obviously, you could export this as a JPEG if you wanted or a PNG. Okie dokie. We're going to create a new skybox material in our folder. So material, we're going to call this skybox. We're going to type in skybox. There it is. We're going to do a panoramic. Drag that in there. Boom. Yay, now we got our skybox. Let's see how it feels in play mode. It's going to look terrible, which is fine. Okay. Looks good. I think we could probably shrink the entirety of it so that it looks a little bit thinner. Let's do that for now and see where it's located. We want that horizon to be right there, right? Which I think that looks good. Let's take a look. PSTs are wonderful to use. Okay, let's just add some cubes jutting up from the background. By the way, this is really important to note. I found that I've talked about this a million times, but it's very helpful to make things look really good in the abstract. Okay, so notice how I'm starting with very basic colors. I'm going to fill in some details. I might go in and do like some cool clouds and mountains in the distance. But for now, I just want it to be perfect in the abstract. The gradients look good. The lighting looks good. The color of the ground looks good. And that's all I'm going to worry about. Okay, let's type in, this is just game materials. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to create a new material. And this is going to be ground. Okay, ground. Boop. And then we're also going to create one called platform. I think for our color scheme, we could probably actually do a platform color of something like that, maybe. But let's just grab this for now for our ground. And to make this feel stylized, I'm going to reduce the smoothness and just set the color here. And I can drag it in there. Okay, I don't like it. I don't think I like it. But we're going to keep going. And then we're going to have ground, and then we have platform here. And this is our platform. Reduce the shininess. So these are our platforms, right? I'm going to grab this one here, go into the prefab and do it there. Okay. Now, one way to make things look a little bit more dynamic and interesting is to adjust your lighting. So before I do any color changes, I'm going to make sure my lighting looks good. I want it to kind of feel like the evening. We're going to use sharp shadows or hard shadows so they're crisp and they're stylized. And let's hit play and take a look. I'll answer your question in just a sec. Okay. I kind of feel like this color would be great to use as ground, as those platforms. What was your question? Let me take a look here. Hey, Thomas, quick question. If you have time, I don't like programming coding and don't have money to pay someone. Would it be better to push through or do a rev share partnership? I don't like rev sharing. It's not my favorite, but it's okay to work with a team. It really comes down to let's stop thinking about skill. Let's think about what you want. And then we can create the skills depending on what you want. If you want to work with a team and you like this person, then absolutely do the rev share. If you don't like working with a team and you're an auteur and you like to be alone, go learn to code. It really comes down to what you want, right? And that's something a lot of game developers don't think about because they're thinking about the game. They're not thinking about enjoying the game. So yeah. Okay. I kind of just feel like the ground should be all the same color. And maybe the platforms are this orange color. I could be wrong. I just have to play around here. Let me play with this for a sec here, guys. That's kind of cool. Let's take a look. Hey, Nick Sant. That kind of does look cool, doesn't it, guys? Okay, well, let's go a little bit less saturated here. Let's pause it. See if we can come up with like a cool color here for our ground. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right, we're going to use the orange color for our gun, but we're going to be a little bit more creative with this. I don't want the entire gun to be that vibrant orange. You want it to be in pops, okay? Now, if you're thinking, Thomas, this is all just blocks, that's the point, okay? I've said it a lot, but I just want to clarify for those of you just joining us. We're trying to achieve a ton with very little, because if you could do a ton with a very little, you can do a ton with a lot. And it's all about understanding fundamental principles of color and particles and effects. So let's go to our camera, or our weapon. And here's our weapon, right? I'm going to just make sure that our weapon is some kind of green color, like this. Why can't I do that? Freaking selection in Unity sucks. There we go. And let me just feel this out. Thank you, Nick Sant. Thank you for the coffee. Okay, we're gonna probably make this like a gray. Okay. Let's see here. Actually, I'm gonna enter play mode here and take a look at it. So this is our weapon. We kind of want it brighter. That kind of looks cool. And then what you could do is you can, because the weapon is never animated here, the weapon, like the actual box here, and frankly, I should probably call this like a rifle barrel. And maybe we could do a sphere, if I'm being honest, or a capsule, or a collider. What am I saying? There we go. Something like this. -90. And we'll go by 1 by 1. Squash it down. Let's open this up in the side so we can see it. I think maybe making it a sphere is going to be a good idea. Yeah. There we go. It doesn't need a collider. I'm going to move this over to my other screen really quick, guys, so I can see it. It doesn't need a collider. Let's hit play, though, to make sure that it's correctly working. Oh, yeah, it looks so much better. Yeah, it looks good. Just trust me. Okay, but we want it to feel more like it sounds. So I'm going to make it, and you know what we could do is maybe do this so you guys can see it. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's make it look like it sounds. Okay, so we're going to create a bunch of cool stuff here. I'm going to call this rifle graphic, and it's just going to be a empty game object. I'm going to start moving that stuff inside of this. Let's go to enter the player here. Okay. There we go. And then I have my rifle graphic. It's all zeroed out in a nice clean position here. I can take my barrel and move it inside of the rifle graphic and just start creating some cool shapes. And we'll do some cool emissives as well. And then maybe one on the side here. And the shape of the gun is so important, but you have to look at it from the camera. You cannot trust it like this. In fact, I don't know if this is true for a lot of AAA studios, but I know for me, when I'm on a budget, I will have my artist or me personally shrink and squash the gun, and it looks super strange from the side, but it looks really good from first person. So in this case, you can see why we need to do that. You know, we need to start moving shapes around here. Look at that. Why is it doing that? Oh, that's because of this. And there you go. So yeah, make sure you're looking in the camera view. There we go. That was a huge mistake on my part. Check that out. We could even add one more to the top. And we'll just do really cool color changes. We're going to have pops of color, man. And then maybe one of these little reticles here. Something about that reticle feels so good. I don't know what you call that, or a sight. And we could put one here as well. Right? Boom, and then one here, boom. Okay. And that is our gun. So let's hit play and take a look. Feels good. We probably need a new sound for the gun, if I'm being honest. That feels so good. We just need a new sound, but we can do that. That feels good. I'm going to make the reticles go down a little bit. And then we can start throwing on some color. So look, you know, the weapon, I'm going to put that in its own little folder. It's going to be, this is going to be world materials. I just want to stay really organized here. And then we're going to have a new folder. This is going to be called player materials. I mean, honestly, it should just be weapon materials. Okay. There's our weapon. I'm going to drag this to here. And we're going to put it where that, maybe this is the silver, right? So it's this one and this here. I can't select it for some reason, guys. That's so freaking annoying. Stop it. Okay. Sorry. Give me just a sec. Okay, got it. So all of this is going to be silver. Silvery green. I mean, if you wanted to, you could do it shiny, but I want it to be, or metallic even, which maybe we'll keep and just try it, right? But I don't know what that is, actually. There we go. And then we're going to have, that's going to be weapon steel. And then we're going to have weapon wood, right? Desaturated brown right here. Desaturated brown, right? Nope, that doesn't look good. Oh, no, it's not horrible, actually. I don't even know if I need that. I kind of like just like that. And then this is going to be no smoothness and no metallic. All right, let's take a look. Andres says, I will pay you to do these off-peak work hours. What are you talking about? Oh, in the evening? Yeah. I like the steel. I just think that it really ruins the vibe. So we probably want to just do this. Okay, let's fix some of the coloring. The steel should probably just be gray. The brown wood should be much more saturated and redder. There we go. And overall, I think that's good. I wonder if we need to go darker with the steel here. No, we want a little bit lighter. Okay. Yeah, we need to go a little bit lighter with the steel. Okay. Yeah, it does sound like a pistol. So let's go ahead and find a rifle or like a shotgun, like a punchy shotgun. Honestly, I kind of feel like let's do a rifle. Yeah, it's driving me nuts, actually. Rifle shoot. That's it. That's awesome. So we're going to just create various pitches of this. And then we're also going to get the sound of leather straps. Bullet shells clinking. There we go. Hang on, guys. Hang on. One sec. Yes, we just need leather sounds. Like this. And we'll fade it out. We don't always want to have it this echo sound that intense. That's good enough for me. We're going to change out our shoot sounds. We're going to go for it here. Yes. This one, we're going to make it not so intense here. We're going to make this a little bit lower pitched maybe, or maybe we just cut out the front end. This would be lower pitch. -8. Well, it is a rifle. This is a rifle. Okay. Lower this pitch. Move it over maybe here. And then this we don't want as loud. Right? And this is going to be the third one, right? We're going to go back in time. Take this. I'm going to make it so there's no reflection. And then this is going to be very low pitch. And cut out these pieces. So we're getting all these different variations in sound. That's good. And then this one is going to be lower pitch. And cut out this. Let's see how this sounds, guys. Hopefully this feels a little bit better. And we'll make it look more like a rifle here in a sec. Yeah, so how it looks is so important. You're right, it does look like a pump action. So we'll do this. And then shrink that. So it has more of like a rifle look to it. There we go. Okay, that should do, right, guys? Does that look better? May even want to make that wood as well. And this comes forward a little bit like that. Weapon wood. And maybe we'll have 2 weapon woods. Let's try that. Kind of feel like it needs to be rotated or moved in a different position here. Yeah, that feels better. And we'll move the sights up. Yeah, so that's going to be at negative 0.06. And then the sights here are going to be like that. Good. Okay, let's take a look. That's great. Okay, now that's color, right? We also want to do lighting. We've done some lighting. We'll do some point lights here in a sec. So let's do a little bit of a point light. Let's come up with just some ways to add light to the scene really, really quick. Okay, one of the ways we could do it is we can go ahead and create a new 3D object, create a sphere, and I'm gonna this is gonna be our world material. I'm gonna call this light. Let's call it wall light. Turn on the emission. We're gonna make it like a yellow. There we go. Make sure the emission's on. Make sure I save it because it's starting to freeze on me. And just throw that here. Stop, Unity. There we go. So this should emit for us. I'm going to make sure it's set to 0 smoothness. And what I could do is in interesting places, just create these interesting lights to create variations, shadows, and spookiness. And then we can reduce the directional light, right? So this is going to be called our wall light. Inside of it is going to be a point light. You could do a spotlight if you wanted to save on memory, because a point light is what? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6 spotlights. But in our case, we're just going to use a point light because it's a small scene. And then there we go. See how cool that looks now? We're going to reduce the range, crank up the intensity, right? And move it closer to it. I don't want that. I guess I could if I really wanted to. I like to move it out for some reason. But let's see if we need to actually. Maybe we could just keep it in that spot. Yeah, I don't love that. I kind of want it to be a little bit softer like that. But maybe we could soften the intensity here. Increase the range. Yeah, it's just the problem with freaking Unity is the light fall off is terrible. So we're gonna do something like that. We're gonna do shadows as well. Good. I'm gonna go ahead and apply this, or add this as a prefab, and I could put these just in interesting places. You don't have to put lights everywhere. We're not lighting the scene practically. We're lighting the scene cinematically, meaning we're not thinking like realistically how this scene might be lit. We're thinking, how do we make it look cool, right? So here's an example. Watch this. I'm going to take this directional light. I'm going to drop down the intensity significantly. Also, I want to make sure I go to my lighting tab, and I'm going to turn down my skybox lighting for now. We're going to light this scene spooky, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and place some, like, three wall lights, maybe one on the ground here as well. And we're going to manipulate these lights in a way that makes it look cool. We don't care if it's realistic. We're worried about the cinematic value here. I'm going to crank down the intensity of our skybox. I'm actually going to do it in Photoshop. I'm going to do that for now. So it's really moody and dark. Okay. And let's see here. The directional light, we could probably get rid of it for now. Let's see what it looks like here. No, I kind of like having it a little bit. Yeah, so we're getting these cool lines. I do like that. These shadowed lines here. And I know what a lot of you are thinking. What are you doing, Thomas? You're ruining it. Hang on. Don't ruin it, Thomas. Hang tight, y'all. We're going to use complementary colors here. Okay, we got this sort of central, what we would call the key light. And then we can create these pops of interesting lighting here. So do you see why it's important to have a base layer of colors that you want to use? Sort of low saturated, earthy tones. And then we're going in on top of it like an Imagineer in Disney World would and throwing in interesting colors of light. Think about, have you guys ever ridden on any of the raft rides? Like Pirates of the Caribbean, it's a great ride in Disney World. If you would turn on all the lights, you'd probably see, and it was all flat, right? If you just blew the lights on, you'd probably see earthy tones, but you'd have a pretty consistent color palette that the artists who are painting the actual marionettes or robots or whatever you call them and the sets, they're painting it with a very consistent color scheme, right? Then the lighting expert comes in and they shut off all the lights. That's what we just did. They shut off all the lights and then they go in and start adding pops of color. And they're just having fun and creating complementary color here. So I'm going to do like a red one here. Oh, but Thomas, the emissive doesn't match. Hang on. So it's going to be wall light yellow. This is going to be wall light red. And this is going to be wall light blue. So we have 3 colors we're going to work with here. This red one here. Okay. We're going to have the blue one here. I'm going to put it in the center. Okay, we're going to move the point light up so it's not so intense. That should cast shadows. Yeah, I wish that was casting shadows like that. Let's think about this. We might want to move it over so it's casting interesting shadows over here. Yeah. So I'm just thinking about the shadows. Yep. There we go. Okay. This is another interesting color. And because, well, we'll talk about it in a sec, actually. I want this one to be pretty big here. And we're going to create a complementary fade, almost a gradient. Do you guys see what's happening? We're creating this really interesting gradient of color as we're thinking about, all I like to do is think about maybe 2-3 lights. And I like to create gradients of color shifts. There we go. That's awesome. And we're going to throw that red light here. For some reason, that doesn't look red. There we go. Okay. This one over here, I'm going to do, yeah, I'm fine with that just being the same red. Like that pinkish color. Cranking up the intensity here. Desaturating it a little bit. All right, let's feel this out and see if the scene is lit to our liking. Oh yeah, Haunted Mansion is definitely my favorite ride. All right, so we probably need a little bit more light, and I'll tell you where we're going to put it. This is going to be the fancy one. Okay, looks good. I kind of don't like the color of this, honestly, now that we've lit the scene. So I'm going to see if we can match it up a little bit. That looks much better. Okay, let's think here. Where do we need light? And this is where it gets a little tricky. What you don't want is you don't want areas that are too dark and they just look ugly. So like over here, not my favorite, right? So we need to be thinking, how can we solve that problem? Okay, how do we solve that problem? Well, one way to do it is to put a light on the player and just call it a day. So we might do that. Let's try it. We're going to put it on the player controller here, which is the, yep, right there. We're going to put it inside of here. Okay, zero out his position. The problem is you got to be really careful because you don't want it to blow out the gun. So you just have to be really careful. I had this problem in Twisted Tower. One of the things I ended up doing was I did a spotlight. Let's see here. Let's turn on our gizmos here. Spotlight like this. And then you just gotta be really careful. And I would pull it back behind the player, which I know is really weird. But let's try this. We're just gonna do a standard sort of warm color. That looks great, actually. Reduce the range, but crank up the intensity. And let's see if that looks any good. Maybe reduce the intensity. No, this is not too many lights. This is fine. What kills Unity is shadows. It's not lights. Lights are fine. I mean, you got to be careful, but it's the shadows that can really hurt. Yeah, this looks much better. Look, when I get into a dark area, it warms up, right? Okay, the horizon. The horizon is looking a little off. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the horizon is a little bit warm, but it gets really dark. We need to justify the darkness. And so the idea is, okay, the sun's setting. So maybe we'll see the horizon in the distance, but we're not going to see that much sky. So we're going to see like this. Let's try that. Okay, maybe reduce it a little bit. Okay. I don't know if I like the warmth of it, but we'll see. I kind of want to make those platforms the same color, guys. I might just do this. Just make it the same as the ground. I kind of feel like that's the smartest decision here. Let's take a look. Justify the Darkness is a low-key banger band name. That's true. I hate that shadow. Let's fix that. We're going to add some lens flare as well to our lights. Might as well while we're finishing up the lights here. Oh, that needs to be green. That needs to be green. That needs to be green. Oh, okay, okay. Let's do the green. Let's do the green. Let's do the green. No, that needs to be blue. It needs to be blue. Yay. Blue light, and then that one is, for some reason, the wrong color. You want to put some lens flares on? Now, you want to be careful with lens flares. What I like to do with lens flares is to have full control over them. I actually don't put them inside of the wall lights. I create a separate empty game object, and I'm going to make it like a global lens flare we can use for a variety of different things, right? So we're going to do the SRP one. There it is, and I'm going to move it. And look, not every light has to have a lens flare. Sometimes it's just a few of them, right? Just to make it look interesting. So we can do that. I'm going to make a prefab out of it. And for this one, the scale, we're going to reduce. If you put a light component on it, you can control its coloring. So we can do something like this. But I'm going to disable the light itself. So you're controlling the color, but you're not controlling, but there's no light, right? So let's see if that looks any good. Every light needs a flare. What are we playing? Perfect Dark? Yay, Unity is just pissed off now. So there's no lens flare. And I'm wondering why. It might be the camera. I think the camera is not accepting post-processing, maybe? Yeah. There we go. Now, if we go to our post-processing stack here, you'll notice that we do have bloom on here. So there is bloom occurring, which is going to be one of our things we do. But let's make sure that we have 2, or maybe 3. Let's make sure the lens flare is working first before we worry about post-processing. That's too much bloom, obviously, but let's see here. There it is. Okay. Yeah, so obviously I want to turn off our bloom for now, just because tone mapping always flattens things, but I do end up using it. The vignette, I don't really need either, but I'm not going to worry about post-processing right now. Right now we're worrying about the lens flare, okay? That lens flare is a little small, actually. So I'm going to crank up the scale, maybe reduce the intensity and the distance. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to apply those changes here and maybe do one more, maybe like right here. So you can see I'm not, they're not inside of the lights because I don't want every light to have it. Let's hit play and take a look. Yeah, for some reason it didn't copy, which sucks. But we're good there. Copy, paste, and then bring this over here. I didn't do it. That's why. I'll make the colors look correct. It's just the problem is that when you have post processing with bloom, sometimes you have to do the bloom first before you worry about the lens flares. Okay. As I get closer, it gets bigger. There we go. Yeah, you just want it to be sort of there. I don't love that lens flare, if I'm being honest. But that's like the only ones we have. So that's fine. Maybe I can edit it so that I'm not seeing so much of that. But yeah, let's edit that lens flare because I hate it. That lens flare, I can't edit it for some reason, and Unity just froze. It's because it's in the core. Maybe I need to create a lens flare. Let's see. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna worry about it. Let's be careful not to get too bloated here. So we're just gonna do an attenuation distance, scale distance, so that it's really only occurring like right there. Yeah, that's good. Let's apply it. Yeah, I like it. Okay, guys. The next thing we want to do is actually make sure the fog matches the horizon. Before we do that, we want to make sure the skybox is not so ugly. And the way we do that is we go to our max size. We're going to go pretty big, 8,000. I'm going to set the filter mode to point no filter. I'm going to make sure there's no mip mapping. And there should not be a replete. It should be set to clamp. And hopefully it's a little bit smoother now. Man, this is looking good. So that sky is kind of ugly. And I want to figure out what's going on here. What is happening to my sky? We're going to go really big and just see what happens. Nothing. So I believe that it's this. It's just not big enough, maybe? Yeah, let's go like 6,000. And just see what happens here. When you have simple gradients in a skybox, it actually looks really bad. You need some texture and you need things to be textured because it's so simple. It looks really bandy. No compression, and I think that'll do, donkey. That's a little too big. So there we go. Yeah, it was the compression that was causing it. That's what it was. This would be a good game kit. Look at that. So for some reason, we have a, there it is. Just want to make sure you get rid of that crap. And guys, when we go in and make the skybox look beautiful, it's going to change everything. You want to make sure it matches the stylistic nature of the game, though. Okay, so I'm ready to go ahead and begin working on the enemy look and feel. So again, we're doing a lot of just effects at this point. In this section of the video, it's just effects, right? We'll do UI and stuff, but this is the effects portion, and that's for Jordy, the editor, just so he knows. These are just a bunch of different really mini effects we can add to the game. Do I want to make the skybox pink? A little bit of pink here, maybe. Yeah, that looks cool. We forgot about fog. So this is super easy. We're just going to go to fog here, turn it on, and then we want to make sure that the fog matches the horizon. And if I add an enemy in, for example, and he is, let's say, right here, I really don't want to see much of him. Like that. Yep, just like that. Maybe a little bit more. Let's try that. So now it feels like kind of stormy. It's getting fun. It's feeling really profound. Do you remember what I was saying earlier when we started the live stream? How music adds profundity, if that's a word, and it makes things feel like, man, this is an important game. No, it's not. I just put the music in there. The same is true with fog and lighting and post-processing. It's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is for real. This is serious. Like there's a lot of intention behind this. When in reality there's not, you know. It's all tricks. It's smoke and mirrors. Okay, one big issue we have is we're not seeing a line for when we shoot things. Fortunately for you guys, I've already got that programmed. It's right here. I had it and now it's gone. I had a trail renderer somewhere. There it is, bullet trail. If I put that into my, oh no! Bullet trail is being instantiated on the weapon controller. So let's see how we do this. There it is, bullet trail. If we turn on the bullet trail, yes, let's just turn on the trail renderer for the bullet trail. All this is doing is instantiating a bullet trail, and the bullet trail moves from the tip of the gun to the enemy, and then it deletes. That's all it's doing. So let's take a look at it. Now you'll notice that it's a really thin line when I shoot at the sky, and that's because it's kind of shooting to infinity. And so what you want to do is, this is horrible, and I hate that I have to do this, but what you want to do is add a quad, a massive quad, and in Twisted Tower, I call it the Firmament Collider. It's like a firmament, right? If you're a flat earther, you know what that means. It's like a firmament, but in this case, it's just going to be this inverted box, right? Now, what you could do is you could actually create a Pro Builder mesh, right? But we don't have Pro Builder installed, so I'm just going to do this. Rotate them. Actually, let's do a nice clean 100. 100 by 100 by 1. Let's turn off the effects so we can see it. And all this is going to do is stop the raycast, right? So that you're not getting crazy infinite numbers with the raycast. And so there's a hit position always occurring. And I'm pretty sure there's a better way to do this in the code. But I'm not worried about it. Are you? Don't be. I'm going to paste that. I'm going to make sure it's set to the center and just rotate it like that. And now we have this inverted cube, right? I'm going to call this the firmament. The firmament collider. And then you just turn off the mesh renderers, make it a prefab, and now we have our firmament collider that's sort of always hanging out there so that when I shoot, I'm not getting these weird infinite values. Okay. One of the firmament colliders is visible, and I don't know why. There we go. All right. We got to make sure we go into our trail renderer and make sure it's the right material. So right now we don't have one. So let's go ahead and go to our materials folder. What the F? Why is that there? I don't like that. I'm going to delete that. And let's go to our this weapon material. That's, yeah, it is. And then we're going to call this bullet trail. And it's going to be emissive. We're just going to do yellow for now. And we're going to see what happens when we add this to our materials here. There it is. And let's just see it in game mode. And, you know, we kind of want it to fade out over time. I can't remember how to do that. I don't remember how to do that, but let's save this and take a look. Okay, so I'm going to grab the trail renderer here. We're going to figure out what's going on with this emissive. Is it actually emitting? It is. I wish it was more faint. Maybe we'll do a sprite. Universal renderer, we're going to do particles. We're going to do unlit. That way we can do more faint and maybe set it to additive. Yeah. Crank up the intensity. We're going to go a little bit more red here. And I think that's fine, guys. What is that glitch? Okay, we don't want it to last that long either. So let's go to our trail renderer and figure out, is there a... No, okay. So when we instantiate the trail renderer, which is occurring on the weapon controller, the trail renderer gets deleted after trail duration. So if we go to our weapon, we have a trail duration. I want it to be very brief. 0.5 is way too long, so we're going to do 0.1 and see how that looks. Yeah, obviously it should fade out and shrink and stuff, but we're not going to worry about that. It's going to be really fast. Even faster is totally fine. So we're going to set it to 0.05 or maybe 0.04. Save it. Take a look. Okay. The weapon tip is in the wrong place. It's coming from the center here. So that is where the trail render is being emitted. I mean, I might even want to do it like... put it inside of... Why is... I'm having a hard time here getting this in the right spot here. There we go. Go to. That's so much easier to do. Okay. Let's hit play and see if that looks right. I'm not sure if it will, but we'll see. Okay. I think it's fine. We could probably bring it forward a little bit, honestly. Like there. I don't know why. But let's see. What's it being freaking emitted from? Okay. I think it's just the screen shake, and I'm not too worried about it. All right. Moving forward, what we need to do is throw in a point light as well that is going to be used as just a quick flash to make it feel like the gun is, powerful. So we're going to do this. We're going to go to make it a point light here. I'm going to put on the weapon tip here, zero out its position and rotation, set its scale to 1, and then bring it back to, I'm actually fine at the weapon tip actually, so we're good. So right here is good. Shrink its range. Crank up its intensity. Oh, I smell some good food. My wife is making something. Let's see how it looks in game mode here. So you can't see it for some reason, and I don't know why. Yeah, so you want to be kind of strategic of where it's placed. I can't see the gizmos. Hang tight. And I'm going to put it to the left of it. I know that's weird, but I kind of did the same thing for Twisted Tower. There we go. So it's going to do this, right? Now, the benefit here is that, look, we have these animations, so it's going to be really quick and easy to make this work. We don't have to do any code. So intensity cranks up and goes down to 0. See? That's it. That's all it is. We may even be able to do a lens flare as well, just to be extra economical here. I'm going to put a lens flare right where the point light is for now. Yep. I know that this is not a great idea, but it's cheap, right? And you guys know I'm all about doing things cheap and quick. So we can do a lens flare here, crank up its intensity. We're going to do like this. Yeah, there we go. Scale. We'll try this and see if it works. It might not. And then what we're going to do is set its intensity to 0. And then when we shoot, we'll see if we could just crank it up really quick, And then go down to 0. Let's just see if that works. It probably doesn't, but we're going to try it. Yeah, it doesn't. What we want to do here is use a we're going to use a sprite. So this is another piece of art that we need to do. It's going to be 1920 by 1920, and it's just going to be a very subtle red. I'm going to make sure that we invert this because I can see it better. Yeah, this you want to make sure that it's not, that the edges aren't bleeding over. Gaussian blur, good. I'm going to do a yellow one on the inside. Does anybody have kids? Anybody in the chat have children? Just curious. Does anybody have kids? And then we're going to take this one here, do it again, and then one more, but this one's going to be like this. This one's going to be like this. Okay, that's it. Delete that. And then this is going to be called our muzzle flare. Right? And it's going to be a particle? Yeah, it's going to be a particle. So let's create a new particle emitter. I'm going to delete that lens flare because I hate it. Anybody? I do not have any children in this economy. No, I'm turning 17. Not with these gas prices. This said like a true boomer. You've got to be a boomer. Not with these gas prices. And then we're going to go ahead and create a new empty game object, or a particle emitter. The particle emitter is going to be super simple, but and this is actually kind of challenging, I've found. It shouldn't be, well, it's not that challenging, actually. The start speed is 0. The shape is a 0. It's going to be a sphere. And you just 0, 0. Excuse me. We're going to have it move just for now, just so we can see it. And frankly, that could be our smoke, but we're not really going to worry about smoke right now. We're just going to do that lens flare. It's going to be the muzzle flare. There we go. We have the new particles. Unlit, good. We're going to do transparent. We're going to do additive. We don't want the matte behind it, that white. So we're going to hit apply. So there you go. We don't want any mid maps because it's always going to be close to the camera. There we go. There's our particle system. And we're just going to set it to 0. Nope. There we go. And then we're going to set its lifetime to be really short. There we go. 0 radius. Why on earth is it moving like that? Oh, it's because of the start speed. There we go. Start rotation. I kind of want to keep the size consistent, but the rotation I'm fine with having it do this. We want it to fade out over time. No, color over lifetime. That's this one we want. There we go. Now, for some reason, it's faint. So let's set the lifetime to 1. 0.2, 0.2. Okay, we're going to set the lifetime to 1 here so that the alpha can be strong for a little bit longer. There we go. Yep. I don't know why it's so square looking. You know? Isn't that weird? But yeah, we're going to set its emission to 0. And then all we do is on shoot, hit record, and set that emission to, we're going to do 2. And then go down to 0. I doubt that's going to work because there's going to be some weird timing issue. Yeah. So for some reason, we're getting an issue there, and I don't know why. Let's take a look. Maybe we could do turn emission on. Oh, because record. Let's do 10. Nope. I wonder why it's not doing it. Is that interesting, guys? I think that's interesting. I'm going to set it to 0. Look, let me show you something here. Select my particle system. I'm going to set it to 10. But we're not seeing it because we need to hit play. I'm actually going to ask let's add a function in the animator functions called emit particles. and also a particle system in the reference. Allow for a certain amount of particle emissions in the parameters. That way we have this function that we can use in the animator functions that I can emit like 5 or 10 or whatever. The benefit here, yes, is that what we want to do is we want to, we actually are going to do a random size between 1 and 2 or 5 or 10. What? Or 20? What? Oh, I get it. We need to basically do, there we go. It's because of the camera render. There's a certain max scale that it gets to when it gets close to the camera. But that looks good. We can even do a random colorization. You know, we can have some of them a little bit more red, right? Maybe a little bit pink. And I'm going to maximize the size here. And while the code's being written, I'm going to do max particle size of 1. There we go. I can set it to 1.2. There we go. So now you can see that if we emitted, like, let's say 10 at a time, you'd get all these cool shapes and stuff. Yep, there it is. We're ready to go here with our animator functions. So this is going to allow us to play a... I don't know why that didn't work. It didn't do it. Hang on. There it is. It works. I just, for some reason, it's not copying and pasting correctly. There we go. All right, now we can add that particle system to the effects. What the heck? For some reason our weapon controller got changed. I don't know why. All right. Let's go ahead and get this set up here. So we're going to set the default emission for this particle system to 0, right? But then when we shoot, we're going to emit particles, and we're going to emit 5. Make sure you assign it in the animator functions. So it's right here. And I'm going to call this shoot particles. And we should be good. Let's take a look. We'll just speed it up. Not make it so big. But that's the idea. All right, so there's our shoot particles. We're going to make sure they're smaller. So we're going to go to 1. That's fine. We're going to make sure the lifetime is much faster, like 0.3. And hit play. A little too big. For some reason they're appearing in front of the gun. So let's double check. The F. There we go. It's so weird. Yeah, the rendering is appearing in front of the gun, and I don't know why. But let's do 0.4 and then 0.2. Let's hit play and take a look. Feels good. Okay, so what's going on here? Why is it rendering it behind the yeah, I don't know if it is. Maybe it's not. No, it looks like it is. Let's see if we can change the render to be... No, I don't know. And what you can do, by the way, is you can also have one other light that is big, right? So this is going to be point light. We're going to call this shoot light broad. And it's going to be like super broad, right? Like that. So that everything around you flashes for a brief moment like that. Okay. So that's going to be 233. Set that to 0. And we go to our weapon shoot. It's going to be very brief. So 200, we'll do 250 and then down to 0. So it's just, it's like a quick flash throughout the entire room. Let's try that. Yeah, you can see it right there. Okay, let's move on to the enemies here. Actually, enemies we're going to do on the morrow. Okay, so good job, everybody. This was a lot of fun. Remember to click and download that 2D game kit. If you want to make a 2D game kit, click the link below. There's a free game kit for you guys. It's 2D. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. We're going to do enemies and particle effects for explosions of the enemies.